everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Samantha Linden. You are watching Fresh Linden Crochet, which is my crochet channel where I will finally be sharing my knowledge, and the whole point of this channel is for me to be your crochet bestie. So basically I want it to be as if we're sitting in the same room and I am teaching you how to crochet. Hopefully I answer all the questions, all the things, and I'm very thorough. I do have a background in teaching, all ages, all types, lots of experience. And so I just kind of wanted to, I miss it. I miss teaching, but I can't really go to a school and teach right now because I have 2 kids at home. But I thought I could at least teach crochet. And the other reason why I wanted to start this channel and start a series on teaching others how to crochet and really breaking it down is because I just see people jumping into it and then not being able to really get it. And so many people around me lately have been saying I tried to crochet and I couldn't do it, and I just really think that everybody can do it. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna teach it. I'm gonna teach it my way and in a way that I think will be helpful to a lot of people. There are lots of tutorials out there, lots of stuff on YouTube, and I encourage you to watch more than just mine, especially if you know that you learn from watching a lot of other people. I've been crocheting for 11 years and I learned mostly on YouTube. Reading patterns I wasn't the best at the beginning, and I plan on making a series eventually where I will kind of walk you through reading patterns and how you should go about doing that, because I haven't seen very many people or anyone really do that, but I also haven't searched for it, so it could just be I didn't see it. But I'm really excited to start this, channel. So excited to be here. And I'm so excited that you're here and that you want to learn something. So just some like beginner things I would say before you start crocheting is don't start with a pattern. Have a goal in mind of something you want to make eventually. For sure have that, because then you have something to work towards. But you really should build a strong foundation first before you start getting into those more difficult projects, especially because you're probably going to get frustrated and want to quit. And if you, especially if you don't know what you're doing or you're missing something, there's a lingo you're not understanding or a stitch you don't know, then you're probably going to get more frustrated. And if you understand how something should look, how like your stitches should look, that's a really important one, then you know you're doing it right. And so the amount of times that I've started a project and taken it apart has been a lot. It's okay to take something apart if it's not looking good or if it's not looking right, and sometimes you have to get a few steps in before you're like, okay, this is coming together. But if you know what you're looking for, then you'll know, okay, this is a trust the process moment, I'm gonna get there. So the other thing I'd want to start off by saying is you are gonna need a couple items which are pretty common in every crochet project. So if you've watched any other crochet videos, you would see people are always going to suggest that you need scissors. I have like 3 pairs. You don't need any specific scissors. You just need some scissors that are going to cut your yarn for you. You are going to need crochet hooks. Let me actually grab all my supplies really quick. Okay, let's see here. There's crochet hooks of there's just so many different sizes. I have a pack of tiny ones here. We got a big old one here, and then I've got all these guys here. The most basic size you're probably going to need is going to be, let's see, the sizes I probably use the most, 6, it's my 5 downstairs, my 5.5 is here, another 5.5, okay. I've actually never used that size. My size 5 is downstairs, not that it matters, but I use 4.5 quite often. I use my size 5mm a lot, 5.5 and 6. Those are probably the most common sizes, mostly because the most basic yarn, acrylic yarn, recommends size 5.5mm. So one of the first things, I mean, you could go to your local craft store and get crochet hooks, but I'm going to tell you right now the cheapest place to get crochet hooks is going to be off of Amazon, because you can just buy a pack and have like a nice variety of sizes. I buy, I don't know how to say it, but the Boye, B-O-Y-E, those are the ones that I like to buy. I think that's what like all my hooks are. Yeah, pretty much all of them are. Like the small ones are Susan Bates. I didn't buy those were given to me, but I just like the plain metal ones, okay? They're like cold, they're small in your hand, they feel nice. They do have like the ones that have like the rubber ends, more ergonomic if that's what you need. I also have like, oh, I don't know where it is at the moment, but I have one of the light up ones as well, which is convenient but still not my favorite. These ones are my favorite, just the plain old ones. I don't have anything fancy made out of anything fancy, the plain cheap ones like this. I'll have them linked below as well, and that would be like one of the first things you'd want to buy. Next is going to be your yarn. So let me grab some yarn. Actually, before I talk about yarn, you're also going to need a needle. Yarn needle. I have metal ones here. I have a plastic one here. I suggest the metal ones, they just go through yarn a lot better. The plastic ones kind of catch a little bit on the thread sometimes. Now when it comes to yarn, you want to make sure you get the right yarn, and the one that I would suggest for starting off is going to be acrylic. And I have a couple different examples here to show you, because I feel like that's one of the most daunting parts. You want to start crocheting and you walk, oh my goodness, you walk into the yarn section and you're just overwhelmed. Number one, so many colors and choices. Number two, so many textures and sizes. And number three, if you're like me, you just black out completely because you're in the yarn section. So I have a couple different options to share with you. My favorite is to go to Hobby Lobby and get I Love This Yarn. It's $4.99. Usually I try to go when they have it on sale, usually like 30% off. Either way, $5, you're getting a skein. And it is true, I do love this yarn. The name, I mean, yes. It is nice and soft. It slides through my finger when I have my tension going. It doesn't get caught or anything like that, and so that's why these are my favorite. And a majority of my yarn I get at Hobby Lobby. So we'll start there. Another good option is going to be if you want to go to Michaels instead. They have their Loops and Threads. I just got this the other day. Loops and Threads. The Impeccable acrylic is the one that is my favorite to get. They do have like, I bought some of it too, and it's Loops and Threads, but it doesn't say Impeccable on it. Specifically the one that says Impeccable is going to be nice and soft, like the I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby. So I like getting the Loops and Threads Impeccable acrylic. If you go in there, just go in the section and touch everything, okay? Because the thing is your yarn needs to be able to glide through your hands as you're crocheting. And if it's a bit more rough, it's not going to glide very well. You'll see what I'm saying when you start to get into it. Last one I have is my least favorite. Red Heart Super Saver. This one is a stripes one, and I got this on Amazon in a 3-pack. I'll link this color below because it is nice. And of course it was like I think $19 for 3 of them at Michaels. I got this at, or no, I bought other Red Heart at Michaels. The other Red Heart that I bought at Michaels, I think was $4.99 or $3.99 maybe. This one to me is the roughest. It has like the roughest feel. But in my opinion, I like making like my kids beanies out of these. They're not going to be itchy. It's still going to be soft on your head. It's just that the feeling of the yarn isn't quite as soft as the Loops and Threads Impeccable or the I Love This yarn. So that's just my opinion, because Red Heart does do a lot of cool color variations that you can get. So get a color, well, another suggestion, don't get black, okay? Just don't start with black or a dark color, because you're not going to be able to see your stitches very well. This color is going to be great, this kind of like tan color. White probably, I don't know. I don't crochet with white a whole lot, but you can see what you're doing with white. I prefer a green, but green's my favorite color, or I have a lot of oranges as well. But pick something you're not going to get tired of looking at, okay? This one is cool, but yeah, the black sections are going to be a little bit difficult to see. These are all These should all be, yeah, these are all 100% acrylic. Okay, so 100% acrylic, 100% acrylic. And they all on the back say that they are a medium 4. If I can get my camera to focus on that. Medium 4. And I show one of them up close in the back anyways. And so they all are a medium 4, and they all suggest to use a 5.5 millimeter hook. But I like to use 5. I prefer 5. It's going to be up to you. If you want a 5 or a 5.5. Next thing, I'm going to show you some other yarn that's not going to work, okay? This is great. I love this one. It's huge, and I got this for Christmas, and I haven't done anything with it. My sister got me like 2 of them, and I just don't know what to do. But these are a lot bigger, which is going to be obvious when you're looking at it. This one on the back says it is a 6, so this one is a lot bigger. You want a 4, medium. That is going to be important that you have the right yarn for what it is that you are making. So like I said, beginning, start with this. After you get used to it, you can move on to some smaller yarn or bigger yarn, but you want to be able to learn how to control your tension first, and the medium 4 is going to be, again, right in the middle there of learning how to use your tension. And with something like this, my tension is going to be a bit more loose. With something like the sugar and cream cotton yarn, it's going to be a lot more tight. So, man, I got this like 11 years ago, and probably when I first started. And yeah, this is 100% cotton, so this does say a medium 4, but cotton, it's cotton, not acrylic. I pay attention to that, because the other thing I hear a lot of times is people saying they bought the wrong yarn for what it was they were trying to make or do. And I mean, I've made that mistake plenty of times too. There's times where I've done, like, for example, I just made my mom's sweater, and the yarn that was used for the pattern was like kind of like an acrylic and cotton situation, and I used only acrylic, so my count was a little off. So mine actually came out a little bit more loose than the original pattern. It will make a difference, and I used to think, like, what difference is that gonna make? It can make a small difference, it can make a big difference, but I feel like until you understand how they all work, which, I mean, I don't even understand how they all work. I still have to like search things up a lot of times to figure out if it's the right one or not. Another example is I used a yarn like this to make, I needed a bulky yarn, and I used it to make a dinosaur for my son, and it's just a fat triceratops instead of being a normal looking one. It's like an extra chubby one, which he doesn't care, he loves it anyways, but I'm just not proud of it, you know what I mean? So that's going to be my little cautionary. I think that's it for beginner stuff. A yarn needle is going to be necessary for weaving in your ends after you make something, and the yarn needles are not expensive either. So that's what's nice about this. It's a less costly habit to start. It is a more costly habit to keep, but that's all in the fun, right? And I mean, my hack for getting a lot of yarn, honestly, is when people ask me what I want for Christmas, I'm like, yarn. I would like yarn, please. And that works well. People don't mind buying you yarn. And the cool thing is they'll buy you yarn that's in like colors that say they like, or colors that they enjoy, and then you're like, okay, cool, this isn't a lot of the yarn that my like sisters bought me for Christmas isn't necessarily colors I would buy, but I do like, and so that's cool. Plus they don't know anything about yarn, so they were just like grabbing stuff. So again, it's cool, somebody else bought it for me. Okay, that's gonna be that little hack. And other than that, the last thing I'm gonna say before we jump into the tutorial is this. I have it set up in a very specific way, and I'm hoping it's a different way than you've seen before. A lot of other tutorials I've seen, they just jump right into teaching you how to do it. And I want you to watch me do it first before you start. That way you are being shown and demonstrated how it's gonna be done and what it's gonna look like. And that's what I want you to see first. That's very important, because then your brain is going to connect what it's seeing to what your hands are going to be doing. That's going to be probably the most difficult part at the beginning, to get your hands to do what you're seeing. And so I want you to watch me do it. Watch that section over as many times as you need to before you move on to the next one. And the next part will be, I'm going to do the same exact thing, only a little bit slower, and we're going to do it together. So then I want you to pick up your hook and your needle, and not your needle, your hook and your yarn, and then get started with me following along. And then I will leave you with a challenge, which is basically like homework of how to get better at that new skill that you are working on at that time. Okay, so hopefully this is going to be helpful for you. Please like this video if it helped you out. Please subscribe. Comment any questions you have below, and I will try my best. Which means I pretty much will get back to you, because like I'm excited to help out. So please let me know if you have any questions or need any more recommendations for yarn and things like that. Let's get started with the tutorial. Alright, crochet besties, let's get started. So I decided to use the loops and threads that I was just showing you, the Impeccable acrylic, and this is in the color Almond. I have a 5.5 crochet hook, and I have some yarn over here. So the beginning steps, one thing you want to do is maybe experiment with how you hold your crochet hook. I like to hold mine straight up. Some people hold it down like a pencil and go in to their stitches when they're crocheting. That is not how I do it. I like to do it this way and kind of like round into there. I know. Another way is, there's a bunch of different ways to make a slip knot. This is the way that I do it. I wrap it around 2 fingers, crisscross back here. This piece that I crisscross, I'm gonna halfway push through here, and then we're just gonna hold the rest of it with the rest of my fingers. And this piece that I halfway push through here, I'm gonna grab with my hook and pull, and then pull those two together to get the slip knot onto my hook. Let me do that again. I'm going to take 2 fingers, wrap it around and behind, push it halfway through, and that yarn that I pushed halfway through, I'm going to grab with my hook and pull. There's plenty of tutorials on the internet. Go on TikTok or YouTube Shorts and look up how to do a slip knot for crochet, and there's a million different ways they can show you as well if that way does not work for you. Now the other thing I will need to talk about before we start crocheting is my tension. Now my left hand is the one I use for tension, and what I like to do is pick up my yarn with my thumb. I'm sorry, that's my pinky finger. Pick up my yarn with my pinky finger and wrap it around, and then this piece that's connected, I go under my other 2 fingers and over my pointer finger. And this is going to be how I control my tension. So I'm going to pick it up with my wrap it around my pinky, under those 2. I'm going to pick up this front piece under here. So this is what it looks like when it's on my hand. And that's going to be how I control the tension pretty much, is if my finger's up here, down here, looser, tighter, that kind of a thing, okay? So now for my first chain, you want to make sure that the hole that you have on your hook is big enough to fit the top of your hook through this way, in my opinion. That's the best rule of thumb. So my thumb and my middle finger here are holding this while I make my foundation chain. So I'm just going to wrap the yarn around. I'm going to hold this guy in my hand, my hook, and then I'm going to come down and go through that first chain. Doing that again, going to wrap around, come down, and my pointer finger is holding the yarn still, so that way I'm not adding more and more yarn, because if I don't have tension, then it's just going to go like this as I'm going down, okay? So you need to have your tension and hold your tension, and you want your tension to be the same, so that way all of your chains are the same size. And again, wrap my yarn and go through. Wrap my yarn and pull through. I'm going to wrap my yarn and I'm going to pull through the hook on my yarn. or the yarn on my hook. And that's it. And you want all of your chain stitches to be about the same size. Now that you've seen me do it, rewatch this whole segment again if you need to, and then in the next segment we will work on doing this together. Alright, crochet besties, so at this point you've watched me do this a couple times, and now you are going to pick up your hook, your yarn, we're going to do this together. So if you were at this point, you should have already maybe seen some other ways to hold your hook and work with your hook, other ways to do a slip knot that are going to work for you. So I'm going to grab my hook, I'm going to wrap around my fingers in the back, pull halfway through, grab my hook and pull that yarn the rest of the way through for my slip knot. Now my slip knot is on my hook. Next step is to wrap my yarn around my pinky and over my pointer finger so I have my tension. And then using my middle finger and my thumb, I'm going to hang on to the end of my chain where my slip knot is, just to help keep that as the same size. And we're going to crochet 10 chains together. Okay? So we're going to yarn over and we're going to come down and pull through the loop on our hook. There is one. Come back up, yarn over, pull through. That is 2. Make sure you're keeping your tension the same so you're not chains come out the same. We're going to yarn over and pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over, pull through 5. And something that's going to help your chains all be the same size, or you know, pretty close to the same size, is if you have some kind of like marker. So something I would do in the beginning is I would come down to here to stretch the yarn out to the size that I wanted it to be, because I realized that I was making too tight of chains. So that's one way to stretch it out, and then you hold your tension to keep it that same size. There we go. Or another way is I look at my hook and I know that I need it to be bigger. That's okay. So that's why I pull my hook through my chain this way. Obviously you don't have to, you just pull it through, but I like to pull it through literally this direction through the hole. That way I know that it's big enough to fit the top of the hook through, and that's kind of how I'm gauging what size my chains should be. So at this point we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains. We are going to do 4 more. So I'm going to yarn over, come down, make sure that the top hook is going to fit through. There's 7, yarn over and pull through, 8, yarn over, pull through, we're at 9, yarn over and pull through for 10. Now I want you to look at your chain and see if all of them look about the same. I know this part looks a little wonky. That's fine. If at this point, it depends on how picky I'm being and what I'm making. If I would take this apart and do it again, this isn't going to make too big of a difference. But sometimes I'm in the mood where this is going to bother me, sometimes I'm not. So it just depends. And I encourage you to either, if you like what this looks like and you feel like you're kind of getting it, then go ahead and keep going. We'll do another 10. If you really are not liking how this is looking, start the segment over again, slip knot and everything. I mean, take the whole thing apart and do it all over again. This is one of those practice makes perfect situations. And I really think getting your foundation chains down is very, very important. I would sit there when I first started learning this and I would do just like 200 long chains, take it apart, do another 200s, take it apart, do another 200, take it apart, until I finally was like, okay, this is consistent and this looks good. Because again, this is a start to almost everything you're going to be making. So let's go ahead and do another 10. So again, my hands are on the table, secured. I'm not doing much movement with this hand. I'm just moving my hook, right? And my other hand is doing another half of the work. So 50-50, your hands, this one's doing 50%, this one's doing 50%, okay? And so that way, I mean, it's evenly distributed, and then everything is working together. Okay, so again, we'll take it nice and slow. We're just gonna yarn over back here, and I'm gonna pull through this chain. So that's gonna be 11, and again, yarn over and pull through 12, yarn over and pull through 13, yarn over and pull through 14, yarn over, pull through 15, yarn over, pull through 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And again here, look, something went funky here. Like, what went funky there? You were watching me. Sometimes it just does. It's yarn. It's unpredictable. The other thing too is this is not about speed. Okay, I realize you've probably seen videos of people that crochet super fast. They knit super fast. I will tell you right now, I'm not one of those people. Crocheting for me is relaxing, and trying to go as fast as I can is not relaxing. It is not comforting. Making something consistent, making something even, making something slow, and enjoying my hands moving, that is what brings the joy and the comfort for me. The other thing too is, like, I don't want wrist problems or hand problems, which makes me think, oh yeah, it's gone. So at one point I was crocheting this baby blanket, and I mean, I whipped that puppy up in like 2 weeks. And it was with a waffle stitch, which works up quick. It was a beautiful blanket, but I ended up getting like a bone like spur right here. I had this just like bump under my hand, and because I just was like constantly working on that, not because it was like in order to meet a deadline. I just love doing that stitch so much that I was like obsessed with making that blanket. And I've seen where other people have to wear, like, you know, they get carpal tunnel, or they need like wrist guards, or they have to stop crocheting altogether because they've hurt their wrists because they just go so much. That is not me. Okay, it's not about speed here. It is about consistently making something beautiful, making something that you're proud of. It's not about speed. We're not racing here. So I want you to take your time. This is a calming, relaxing hobby. It's fun, and it's not like stressful, okay? So I'm going to encourage you to just work on as many chains as you can and get them as consistently as you can until you are happy with it. You're gonna be able to do this. This is easy. This is gonna be one of the probably the hardest parts, because you're working on how you hold your hook, you're working on how you hold your yarn, and you're working on your tension. And I kind of want to show you what it's gonna look like if you crochet more loose or more tight, and some of the differences that it's going to make. So I just want to show you guys what different tensions are gonna look like, because essentially you want to be able to change your tension up depending on what it is that you're making. Say for a beanie, I crochet a little bit more loosely than I do for like these pumpkins that I'm working on for a wreath that I'm making. I wanted these to be a little bit more tighter, as you can tell, so that way they're not as see-through. Some spots are, just because of the stitch that I used. But depending on what your project is how you want your tension to be, and also depending on your yarn, okay? There's like some hats, like the beret hats, where my tension has been so loose with those because they whip up so quick, and they look cuter when they're more loose. But like, it just depends, okay? So I want you to really get your tension down. So if I crochet with a tighter tension than the one I was just doing, first of all, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get through all of my chains when I come back. So that's one thing, and I think that that's a big mistake that new crocheters will make, is they will crochet too tightly, and then everything comes out too small, or just not the right size, or they're like, I can't get my hook back through this chain. And that's a big, if you're having trouble with getting your hook through the chain, that's a big indicator that you're crocheting too tight. Now it is, in a sense, almost kind of difficult to crochet too tight unless your hook is too small for what you're using, but I mean, it can happen. So even right here, I'm crocheting this as tight as it'll pretty much let me. The biggest issue would be if your tension is too tight and you're pulling. So you really shouldn't be pulling. This finger shouldn't be pulling. This finger shouldn't be pulling when you're coming through, because that's going to make everything like too tight. It should be more of a relaxed tension. So I just crocheted this nice and tight, nice and consistent. The issue again is going to be getting back into your chains. That's what's going to be a little bit more difficult. And it should be, again, it's not really going to work unless my chain isn't big enough for what I'm doing. But that could be an issue that maybe you're having when you're working on a project and you're like, this isn't working, this is too tight. So if you are making your chain too tight, then go up half a size with your hook and see if that works better. An example of crocheting a little too loose, or your tension being more loose, is going to look more like this. Well, I'm going to loosen that. You're just going to have a lot more room in your chain spaces. And depending on what you're doing, it could be too loose. Some people crochet very loose. That's their style, and that's perfectly fine. And then you'll see other people who crochet a lot tighter, and people who are more medium. I like to think I'm more medium, but say it just depends again on what you're making. Because if I was gonna make like a hat and the point of it was to be slouchy and loose, then this would definitely be totally fine. Essentially, it shouldn't be your tension deciding if that's what you're gonna do. It should be your hook size. It's not that there's anything wrong with crocheting loose or tight. The thing that it's going to do is if the pattern you're following does not crochet loose or tight, then you're not going to be able to get the same results. So if you watch somebody who's crocheting a beanie and they crochet it tightly and they say they have a tight tension, and then you're making a beanie and you crochet loose, there's going to be some differences. I have a couple swatches here that I crocheted already, and they are different based on size and how my tension was. So you could kind of tell. This one I crocheted with the tightest tension, and it is the smallest piece, so you can't see through it a whole lot. It's nice and tight. It pretty much keeps its shape. It doesn't have a whole lot of give. This one I crocheted with the average tension that I do, and this was the issue that I was having. I was crocheting too tight and things were coming out like this. And then I realized I should be able to have more, there should be more like room, more bend, more give in my projects, and there just wasn't. So that's when I started crocheting a little bit more loose. And then this one is going to be the loosest one and have the most give. And the most, you know, you're gonna see through it the most. So that's why it depends on what you're making. Some sweaters look great crocheted loose. They're more slouchy and they have, but you see through them more. If you want a top, you don't want to really see through it. You want to crochet your top nice and tight, right? And then I feel like this is the most basic. So it really is going to be a challenge, but essentially I challenge you to crochet, to do those foundation chains. Try to get in the middle, but practice more loose and practice more tight. And you can also see these give different sizes because of my tension. So that's why your tension and how you crochet is so important. I feel like this is not mentioned, not talked about enough. And it's something that I've just kind of like learned over the years, because this essentially looks like it has 2 more stitches than the one that's crocheted tight, and it's not. These are all the same stitches. And then this one, same thing. It's like got almost 3 whole more stitches, looking like, because it's crocheted loose, than the tighter one. So depending on the pattern you're following and how they stitch, that's what you're gonna want to pay attention to. There's so many different crochet teachers there on the internet, and they all do a great job, but they all are so different. So you want to know and pay attention to, do they crochet more tight? Because then if I'm following their pattern and I crochet loose, this beanie I'm trying to make is going to come out way more loose than theirs did. And why didn't it work? And then you're just going to think, I'm not good at this, it's me. And I'm telling you right now, Crochet Bestie, hang on. I'm telling you right now, Crochet Bestie, look at me. It is not you. And it is not you doing something wrong. This is why so many people think they are crocheting something wrong. It is because they can't tell the other person's tension, or they just don't know to pay attention to that. So if you are a loose crocheter and you like to crochet with a loose tension, perfect, do that. Find projects that will cater to your loose tension, or know that you might need to adjust patterns so that way they actually fit the way that they should with your loose stitching. I would also suggest finding other like patterns and teachers on YouTube who crochet with a loose tension as well. Same for a tight tension, and even for a normal tension. Like I said, like I try to adjust my tension based on who I'm watching and how they are doing it. So if I notice that they tend to crochet tight, then I will do the same thing if I want to follow their project. Or I will keep in mind, actually, I'm crochet a little bit more loose than this, I should follow it. Not every teacher on crochet says that. Not everyone on YouTube who's doing a tutorial for crochet knows to say that, or explains that, or mentions it. Sometimes you just have to pay attention. And if you're not sure, it depends on the project, but I would say go ahead and try it out with your tension, and if it doesn't work, try it again with a different tension, or pay more attention to what their tension is. I have to say tension again, my goodness, but it's just such an important aspect, and I would like to see more people talk about it or mention it when they are doing these tutorials. So again, it's not you. It's not you. Again, it's easy to mess up a pattern. It's easy for someone teaching a pattern to mess something up. It's easy to forget something. It is not you. Try to think through that, because so many people are giving up on this when they shouldn't. Because it's not you. You can figure it out. Trust me. It's either your tension, they missed a step, you missed a step, they skipped something. So many times I'm watching a tutorial and something that they should have explained isn't explained. And I'm sitting there like, oh shoot, they forgot this. And as someone who's crocheted long enough, I usually can figure it out on my own, but I can easily see how beginners out there are getting like upset with, oh, I wasn't able to do it because you left this out. Or I see comments even on the videos like, what did you do here? How did you do this? You skipped, you know, is there something I'm missing? And to me, I'm like, yes, there's something you're missing. There's something they forgot to mention. So that's why I'm here, okay? Again, your crochet bestie. You are going to learn how to do this. I'm going to pep talk you through it. Start with the chains. Even if you get the chains down, I encourage you to work on different tensions, because if you can adapt your tension to what the person who made the pattern is doing, even better. And if you understand your tension and the effect that your tension is going to have on your work, then that's, again, even better. It's a great thing to have an understanding on, and it's a good foundational knowledge that I think is being skipped. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks for being here. I really hope you learned something. If you have a question or anything like that, ask me. I will get back to you. Please follow my new crochet channel. Can't believe I'm saying that. And like and subscribe. I will see you in our next tutorial. Bye, Crochet Besties.